Well, Dylan, I'd be lying, my friend, if I said I wasn't nervous.
I think we both are.
Had to get some good music for tonight. I wanted a good, like, wrestling thing, maybe, like something a little harder, a little edgier. How's it going, everybody? How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing all right.
All right, let's see if I can hit this post here. Let's try this. Ready? Thanks for tuning in to the Afterlife Network. This is the Landon and Dillan Show, episode 15, The Zodiac Killer. Open line 706-237-8230.
That was pretty good.
That's pretty good, right?
You hit the post.
Oh my gosh. All right. Turn this off now. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm great, dude. Somebody said my mic was low. I'm gonna turn that up. Just let me know if that fixes it for you. I got me turned up.
I think it was probably just during the music, I'm sure.
It could have been. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let me know how we sound out there, guys. Make sure everything comes through good. You know how it goes, especially with technology around us. We can't never get anything right.
We're really glad to welcome everybody for our second true crime podcast. We don't intend on doing true crime all the time, but last episode did so well for us that we thought we would try to recreate it again. So this week we talk about the Zodiac. We're not diving into any suspects this week. We're going off of evidence, the facts of the case. And if you're faint of heart, this one might not be the one for you.
Yeah, some of it's pretty brutal. I do want to mention that we do have the chat. You guys can jump in the chat there, say hey, say what's up. Let us know where you're listening from. There's a bunch of people. There's always new people, and I have no idea where everybody's from. So drop it down in the chat so I know where you're at. Let's see who we got. We got Ray Peace. We got Sherilyn Carter, Justin Brown jumping in. Justin, this is the Shure MV7. Yes, it is. It is. Good call. So yeah, dude, I've been really pumped about this episode. For one, this is the first time on our show that we've actually created an event ahead of time and told people that we were going to go live at a specific time, right?
Yeah, so much in fact that we are no longer allowed to promote ourselves.
Yeah, what's up with that, dude? So Facebook blocked me apparently today or at some point last night from sharing anything. So I'm not even allowed to share this stream out. So if you guys would hit that share button, I'd really appreciate it. I didn't even know if it was going to let me go live, to be honest with you, Dylan. I figured like maybe because I had everything set up prior to me getting banned or whatever happened to me, that it might go through. But it looks like everybody's coming in. We got Ken Allen, Tallahassee, Florida. What's up, Tallahassee? Fred jumping in. Great. So, yeah, we're going to get right into this because I'm going to be completely upfront and honest with you guys. There is a lot of material to go over here. We are going to really try to specifically just dive into the murders and not necessarily the suspects, at least on this episode. Depending on how this goes, we may do a part 2 where we go into the suspects and all that back history with that. But this is more or less about the evidence that we have and the murders that we know of.
And with that, I guess we throw it over to me. So, wasting no more time, everybody, once again, we thank you for joining. To set the scene of the first murder, we're in Solano County, California, Friday, December 20th, 1968. David Faraday, 17 years old, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16 years old, are shot and killed at Lover's Lane on Lake Herman Road. This is within the Benicia County, within the Benicia city limits. The shots were fired by a .22 caliber. David seems to have put up a struggle. Betty seems to have ran. Neither would survive the night. Investigators were able to narrow down that the killing had to have taken place within a 6-minute time frame. There is no motive. This was a random killing. Nobody could be nailed down, and the killer was seemingly a phantom. So With the first killing, um, this is a super small town. This is a town where not a lot of folks, are on these back roads at all times. There was a small pull off that was a lover's lane. A lot of the teenagers in the community knew about it. Uh, these two kids had obviously pulled off, and you know, nobody really knows what happened next, other than the fact these two kids were attacked and killed. Um, so David Faraday, he was found outside of the passenger side of the vehicle. He was a passenger, and Betty's body was found several yards away. The assumption is that she had tried to run, and once again, unfortunately, neither of these suspects would survive the night. This takes us into the next murder, which is in Vallejo, California. This is Friday, July 4th, 1969. Um, the victims were Michael McGow, 19, and Darlene Farron, 22 rather, sorry. Um, they are shot in Blue Rock Springs Park. Michael survived the attack. However, Darlene was dead on arrival to the Kreischer Hospital. Um, Michael said that this man had trailed them from a restaurant, and when they pulled into the park, they didn't know if he was still on their trail. Michael asked Darlene who the guy was, and she simply replied with, "It's someone who's jealous." Um, Michael goes on to say that the gun that was used was quiet. He says the man was about 6 feet tall, had curly hair, jet black hair, that is. He said that the guy was very plain and was wearing glasses. So this is the first ID of the suspect that we will have. This is the first of many that we will have in the future. Landon, so far, how are you feeling about this? We're two murders deep. We know that there are four sets of victims not connected to each other at all. How are you feeling about this?
Well, it's interesting, and especially talking about this case, is there's always like a starting point for people who are serial killers or just want to murder people or whatnot. So I'm curious if these are even really the first ones, and if they are, then typically this is the point where you're going to see um, the most fuck ups by the person doing it. So
Yeah.
this is hopefully where we're going to be able to find the most evidence if I'm just looking at it from the outside.
So that's a really interesting point that you bring up. How do we even know these were the first killings of
Right.
the Zodiac killer? And to be completely honest with you, we don't. There are a lot of theories online. There are a lot of theories within the police departments that there were similar killings happening as early as, I believe, 1965. However, the um, Solano County killing was one that was written about in letters, presumably from the Zodiac. If the letters didn't come from a Zodiac, they came from someone who really followed the case closely, because they gave details in some of these letters, which we'll get into a little bit later, um, of information that wasn't released to the press, of information that wasn't released to the public. Um, and with later letters, actual physical evidence was also sent along. The Zodiac seemed to really enjoy taunting and tormenting, not only his victims but also the police and the press, as we'll get into a little bit later. Do you have any questions so far, Landon? Everything pretty clear?
Everything's good with me so far.
So continuing on with the Vallejo County incident, a person used a payphone at a closed gas station and claimed he was the killer. The station wasn't far from the Blue Rock Springs Park. Um, he spoke in a monotone and seemed void of emotions. This all comes directly from the operator who took the call. Um, he went on to describe the scene and the 9mm Luger that was used. He then said, "I also killed those kids last year." The operator says he ended the call after hanging on to the word goodbye. The operator was, in her interview, all these years later, she was still very, very strucken by the way that he said goodbye. She said that it's not something that she could describe, but he really hung on to it and said it in a tormenting way. It was the only time throughout the call he didn't speak in that monotone.
I must have not heard about this one. Is this the first time that he actually called and said something with his voice? Because I feel like I
Yes.
haven't heard of that out of any
Yeah.
of them that I know of.
So this is the first time of what would be many that his voice is heard.
Word. I didn't even realize there was recordings of his voice.
More on that in a bit.
Okay, we got Rusty Wade jumping in, Nancy Slover, whatever.
It would be a great time to point out also, guys, the phone lines are open. So if you have any questions or you're interested in talking about the case, 706-237-8230 is the call-in number. You can also leave us a message, but we really like to have those phone calls and those discussions, and we'd appreciate it if you have something to bring to the table. The next incident occurred in Napa County, California. This is Saturday, September 27th, 1969. Brian Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Shepard, 22. They are stabbed at Lake Berryessa. Hartel survived 6 to 8 stab wounds. These were all to his back. Shepard died on the 29th, a few days later, due to her injuries. She was also in a coma. This incident is different for many reasons. It's in daylight, not at night. A knife was used, not a gun. It wasn't a lover's lane. It was actually a fishing and picnic spot. Cecilia told Brian that she had noticed a man watching them. It seemed that the prowler was hiding behind a tree. She then noticed that he had a gun as well. Brian assumed that the man was just, relieving himself behind one of the trees, didn't think anything of it. But shortly thereafter, a a hooded figure would appear from behind the tree. He was pointing a gun at the couple, and he was also wearing an overlay. The center of the symbol was the circle with the crosshairs through it, which is a famous symbol. Landon, I think that was number 3.
3. Yeah, right there. That's the symbol. Okay, I got it up on the screen for people to see.
Fantastic. This is a symbol that would basically become famous through the Zodiac. This was kind of his calling card. He told Brian that this was a robbery, but to stay calm. He also told Brian he killed a guard getting out of prison. Brian and Cecilia cooperated. The man said that he needed money and a car. He wanted to make his way to Mexico. He then proceeded to have Cecilia tie up Brian, and then he tied up Cecilia. Brian kept asking him questions, and then the fella made the presumed Zodiac killer made Brian lay on his belly and hog-tied both he and Cecilia. Go ahead.
I'm curious how they've tied, and we got a couple of chats I want to get to here too. But I'm curious how they tied this to the other ones, because it seems like with this one specifically, he's gone off the rails. He's went completely different. He's stabbing. He's doing it during the day. It seems to me by him saying that he needs a car and gas money that he didn't really have a plan, and that was kind of a factor that he should have already thought of and it already had an out for. But it seems like he was really relying on the moment to figure that out.
Well, here's the thing. He definitely had a plan because the hood and the overlay which he wore with that symbol on it, which there's another reference picture of the hooded figure. I think that might
4.
be.
Yeah, I got it.
Brian said that this wasn't something that was cheaply made. It was stitched together. Like the circle in the center wasn't like paint, as so many people think. It was definitely something that was made. We'll have more on why this killer is connected later, but they seem to be connected.
I do have a couple chats if we
Please
want
go
to
ahead.
do these real quick. this is maybe one we don't necessarily want to answer now, but this is something we do need to get back to. It's Justin Brown says, "I'm curious if there's any theories or leads that would indicate an accomplice or accomplices to the Zodiac killings."
So I'll take that now.
Okay.
Like I said, we aren't exactly talking about suspects in this particular episode. Having said that, though, there are a lot of theories about copycat killers and more than one person doing the killing, and it would seem as though it made sense. Listen, there were a lot of attacks happening in California at this time period to the point that there are some overlay between like the Zodiac killer and the Golden State killer, and people not really knowing the difference between who was killing who. So my personal thought is that multiple people were doing the killings and that there were multiple people sending letters to press under the assumed name Zodiac. We'll have more on that in a bit, though. Landon, any other chats?
Yeah, one more. Why was he? This one's coming from Patricia. Why was he named the Zodiac?
He actually named himself the Zodiac Killer. I believe originally he was called something like the California Phantom or something.
Mm-hmm.
And when he started sending letters and calling these places, he would always start his letters or start his phone calls by saying, "This is the Zodiac speaking."
Okay.
It was something that he penned for himself. Is there anything else? You have any questions, Landon?
No, I was about to say, like, some of these things that you're saying, because I really don't know a whole lot about the case. This is kind of filling me in as I don't know anything either. But I was watching a show last night. I think what was it called? Hunt for the Zodiac Killer or something like that. And they were in a couple of the episodes. They were going into who he might have been as a child and stuff, and they were relating a lot of the stuff that, like how he named himself and things like that, back to comic books and things that he read when he was a child. And there's some more evidence, in some of these other murders that link back to comic books as well.
I wasn't going to get into suspects.
But again, it's TV, so who knows if that's legit.
I wasn't going to get into suspects, but I suppose because we're actually doing a lot better on time than I thought we would, we're getting through this relatively fast, which is good, because that'll give us a lot of after discussion. And by the way, before in the future, bear with me, please, but keep your comments rolling. We appreciate that. The suspect that Robert Graysmith believes did it. Robert Graysmith was a cartoonist who worked for the Chronicle, which we'll get into a bit later. He wrote an entire book called The Zodiac. There was a movie. There was a movie later that came out, which was basically about Alan is. He fit no description of what anyone saw other than the fact he was an overweight man, which later what we'll see was how he had just gotten this Zodiac watch and he really liked the name Zodiac. And there were some other things that we'll get into in the near future here that also connect him ever so slightly. But once again, all circumstantial evidence.
We do have a call. Let's go ahead and take this call. It looks like the stream's going on and offline for something, but we'll take this call. Caller, go ahead. Hello. Are you there?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, sir.
Well, hello, Landon. Hello, Dillan.
Hi, Rick.
This sounds like Rick. I was just about to say, this sounds like Rick. What's going on, man?
How you doing, guys? I just wanted to buzz in here and say hi.
Fantastic. We appreciate it.
So what's your thoughts on this, guys? I mean, is it collectively just going to be a guy that enjoyed killing, or what is the idea of what's transpiring in the judicial system?
So as far as the judicial system goes and the police, and we'll get more into evidence in a bit, but the idea was basically that this was a guy who enjoyed hunting people for pleasure. He sent a lot of ciphers to police, only a few of which were decoded, but the major one that was decoded is a reference to the novel The Most Dangerous Game, which is basically just a novel about a guy who owns an island and hunts people for fun. Um, the, Whoever the person was who carried out these attacks was a deeply disturbed person, but really there's not much more to go on other than that.
Wow. I know that some of the people that have been discussed and have been through the judicial system are like a Ted Bundy, very, very intelligent. And that psyche of their person is something that you really have to look at.
Everything that the Zodiac did was thought through. I can tell you that there are a lot of theories from people who believe this was someone who suffered from a multi-personality disorder. We'll have more on that here at the end of the episode. There are a lot of people who believe this is someone who probably sustained a head injury at some point, but these are all people who were just doing profiles on somebody who we've never caught.
That's awesome. Okay, I'll let you guys get to it. Okay, I'm just going to listen for a while. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rick. So one more question, then we can move on. Did these murders occur alongside with the Zodiac calendar? I lost the comment, but it was something like that.
To my knowledge, no. That wasn't the connection at all to the Zodiac. The connection to Zodiac had nothing to do with like the calendar. It had nothing to do with him killing people who had a certain birth date or anything like that. It had to do with his really a lot of it had to do with his coding. And once again, Zodiac was a title that he had given himself.
All right, that's all. We did drop the stream there for a minute during that call, but it looks like we're back up and running. So thanks, guys, if you joined back in. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we apologize for any technical difficulties. To my understanding, there are other folks on the network who have had some technical difficulties lately as well.
Yeah, I don't even know what that was because, I mean, we're streaming fine, and then it just dropped out and reconnected, so we lost some time. But whatever, let's move on. It's working, so.
Yeah. All right, so moving forward, this is still the case at Berryessa. So, like I said, Brian was asking a lot of questions. And the reason that he was doing this is because he was taking like a psychology course in college.
Mhm.
And he knew that if you ask questions to these people, they will normally give you answers that can help you later find them. The dude was 22 years old and really intelligent. Brian asked him if the gun was loaded because he had heard that if it was a robbery, most of the time they don't have the gun loaded because they don't want to kill you. At this point, the killer showed him the clip full of ammo and then reholstered the gun. Brian assumed the man would leave, but instead the man began stabbing Brian. Cecilia knew what was next and she was struggling, but he continued to then stab her. Then the killer walked off. Brian was simply trying to keep Cecilia alive through conversation. He was able to loosen her tie with his teeth. He began yelling for help no passersby heard until a man in a boat stopped his boat, turned off the engine. However, this man also left. So Brian talks about how there were a lot of people in the park in other areas who he could see, and none of these people paid any attention.
Doing it right out in the open.
Yeah.
Broad daylight. That's kind of ballsy. Like, at what point as a criminal are you like, yeah, I can just do this in the middle of daylight with everybody around. It won't even matter. I'm that good. Once again. How cocky do you have to be?
Once again, this particular incident is an anomaly throughout the case.
Right. This is why I'm saying, like, this is almost like it's a whole different person, or he's going, I don't know, dude. Well, or maybe the first copycat that
there will be more on that in a bit.
Right. Fair enough. Sorry.
No, you're good. Cecilia then gained the energy to untie Brian. Brian began looking for help. Now, to paint the picture for you guys, this is a man suffered within 6 and 8 stab wounds because, as we'll learn as we go further, boy oh boy, do people not have their shit together when it comes to this particular incident. So Brian was able to stop a car. It turns out that the fisherman had alerted the ranger, and this was the ranger coming to save the day. The relief dispatcher got a call shortly thereafter. Shortly after the attack, the relief dispatcher was rookie patrol officer David Slate. A man's voice came over the phone and he said, "I want to report a murder," and then said, "No, a double murder." Then he gave the location and details of the crime. The officer assumed that the ranger sent this person to call, but when he asked where the man was, he said, "I'm the one who did it." The officer said that the tone was distinct, and the voice was distinct. And Brian said that he would recognize the voice if he ever heard it again. That's important for later. The police took a statement from Cecilia. She described the hood. She said that it was confusing to her that if you're going to kill someone, why wear a mask? Right. It actually turns out, though, that while the man was behind the tree, Cecilia got a good glimpse of him without the mask. She ID'd the man to be. She ID'd the man to have lengthy brown hair. She said that he was a white man with dark glasses. He was about 6 feet tall. He was overweight, and he was wearing all dark clothes. She also described the hood and the overlay that he was wearing.
Now, this hood is unique to this one killing, right? Because that didn't happen anymore.
No. Earlier in the last case, the surviving fellow, the Vallejo, he didn't see a guy with a hood, but he described what the guy looked like. Right. What we're starting to notice, though, is that they gave slightly different descriptions on person. Pretty much the only thing that's agreed upon is that the guy was wearing glasses and he's at least 6 feet tall. Okay. However, Cecilia's ID of this man was not reported. It was not reported at all that she saw his face, and it was left out of the official police report.
Why?
That's a great question, Landon.
Yeah, that is.
Because, quote,
I'm a genius.
The police officer didn't think it was important.
Right. Of course not.
Shortly thereafter, when Cecilia ended up going to the hospital, she went into a coma before passing away. She couldn't follow up with any more details past what she had originally gave to the responding officers. Brian continued to be interviewed, however. Physical evidence was also compromised, but turned in by the Rangers. Basically, what happened here, the Ranger, not being a detective, thought it would be a good idea to just move all of the evidence, pick it up so it wasn't trampled on, but he didn't realize that he just compromised the entire crime scene.
What an idiot.
So,
well, he is a ranger. He's not.
Yeah. So we can't blame him as much as the police officer who left out the ID. Right. We can't. So a footprint was found at the scene. It was a military boot known as a wing walker. It's used in maintenance as to not create friction. They also found tire tracks on a vehicle with 2 different front tires.
Oh.
So when we go through and look at how profilers would look at this, the first thing we're thinking is, this man is smart. He's probably an engineer. He's probably worked on naval ships, hence the wing walker boots that don't create friction.
Right. Having
said that, he's probably also not that affluent. He probably doesn't have that much money. Okay. The victim's car was drawn on the dates and details of the Vallejo attack from July 4th. This was a calling card left with the same circle and crosshair symbol as well. That's the note. I think you said that's number 5, Landon, the car door.
Yeah, I have it pulled up now so people can see.
Thank
that.
you. There's a belief that the killer was fixated with time. It seemed like he was also quite OCD. We move forward here to what is believed to be. We really did run through shit pretty quick too. Do we have any questions or anything?
Nothing right now. But I think it. No, I haven't seen any comments come through here in a minute.
I have to say, I was not expecting us to get through this quickly.
Oh, we did have one. Has John Douglas ever weighed in on the Zodiac? I don't even know who John Douglas is, so maybe you know that one.
John Douglas is one of the folks who is related to the Mindhunter series. He's one of those. He's one of the first FBI profilers.
Gotcha.
To my knowledge, no.
Well, you would think, right, that people that have that career where they're doing FBI profiling or whatever, you know for a fact that they've sat back and looked at some of these more famous cases and were like, maybe I could solve that. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to solve these unsolved things.
I mean, that's their job. And because we have time to kill and we can kind of just have an open discussion, like we're not running for time or anything. We have way more time than I anticipated. We got through this way quicker than I anticipated. We're not quite at the end though, so we're good. A lot of times with these FBI profilers, they are able to figure out who did it with little to no evidence. A great example of that is the DC snipers.
Right.
I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that case. I'm not exactly familiar with it either, but I can tell you that the FBI profilers went in and they said, first and foremost, we believe that the killings are done by someone who's a militant sniper. So the assumption is that he was a militant sniper, probably white, and it was probably in his 30s to 40s. They went on to say that most snipers have a god complex. So when they started receiving letters and this person was referring to themselves as God, they had assumed as much that was the sniper. But then they had also retrieved letters that were different, which they assumed it was a completely different person. They assumed that person was probably someone that was much younger, didn't have a vocabulary, didn't have that same type of context. They didn't speak the same way.
Right.
They assumed that this person was probably forced into this. And what they later found out was that the second person was forced into it. He was still guilty, but he was more so forced into it than anything else. And when the case ended, they were accurate on basically everything other than the fact that both men were African Americans. They weren't white. But
I wonder too, though, if it's with the profilers, like weighing in on a case like this. I wonder if they can't do it publicly because they're at some point held liable to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some freaking legal jargon that...
Yeah, I would assume so. Like I said, I don't know everything about these kinds of fields, but I would assume that a lot of the evidence that these people do, they're not allowed to, like, release or anything.
Right.
It's more or less just to get on the trail.
It's kind of interesting, too, the people that you've mentioned who are possible suspects for some of these. None of those names were mentioned in this series that I watched yesterday. None of them. They were focused on two completely different people.
Who were your two people?
One of them was a guy by the name of Ross Sullivan.
Okay.
And then there was another one. I can't remember.
Was his last name Kane?
Kane.
I think it was
Lawrence Kane. Kane. Yeah.
Let me explain why.
Those were the two that they really...
Because those are two suspects that physically resemble the police drawing. I believe that is picture number 1. If you would pull that up, please. Those two men, unlike Arthur Lee Allen, resemble the sketch. We'll get to the sketch later, but you guys can see it now. Like I said, we're already on the last official incident. And we have nothing but time to kill.
They also mentioned, though, other murders prior to that, but we can talk about those later.
Yeah, precisely. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to just keep having a side conversation to burn a little bit of time?
No, keep rolling.
Okay. So this is the last official incident, also very different than the other two. We're in San Francisco, California now. Saturday, October 11th, 1969. Paul Stein is a taxi driver. He picks up a passenger. The passenger would kill Stein with a 9mm. He would take his wallet, keys, and a blood-stained piece of Stein's
Shirt, right?
shirt. Yes, shirt tail. Thank you. The passenger was seen by 3 teens who called police and observed the killer wipe down the cab. Now, it's important for me to mention this now before we get any deeper.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most frustrated we will all get at one time. Period. This particular incident was so fucked by police that it's kind of insane how fucked it was by the police.
That bad.
Oh boy. Enter Patrol Officer Don Falk. He believes he saw a man while patrolling. He said the man was 35 to 40, 5'10 with a crew cut. The teens said the man was 25 to 30 with a crew cut around 5'9. Both parties say the man was white. Now, Landon, why do you think that's important for me to mention?
That they're white?
That he's white.
Because the last one you said that they were black.
No. The last one, it was a white guy. He was in black clothing, the black hood and the black. It was a white guy also. The reason that this
goes back to the one that wasn't mentioned.
Yes. The reason that this is important is because the police believe that this was a robbery, and dispatchers reported it was an African-American assailant.
Oh, really?
Now, nobody understands where the miscommunication was between the teenagers saying it's a white guy and the dispatcher saying it's a black guy. Don Falk passed the person who probably did it.
Yeah, that was mentioned in that show, and Patricia brings up a good point here too that I heard, that there was a woman that was in an upper apartment that actually saw the Zodiac kill the cab driver, and I guess that's who she would also witness him cleaning up the car and stuff like that.
Yes, so there were actually, with this particular case, there were a lot of
witnesses.
Yeah, thank you. There were a lot of people who witnessed this happen. The teenagers are the most noted because the police would later run into them. There were also 3 young kids who saw it happen and the woman in the apartment above. All of these people say they saw the exact same thing. A white dude, 6 feet tall, 30-some years old, wearing glasses, short red hair.
Right.
Somehow, for some reason, the dispatcher said it was a black guy. So, boy, oh boy, is it about to get worse. This is why, when Don Falk saw a white guy earlier, he didn't apprehend. Okay? To this day, we don't know why there was a false description. Once again, the killer is a phantom. The crime scene was surveyed by first responders. The scene hadn't been compromised this time, but the police can't agree on anything. At this point, with the sources that I've looked into with the research, I read countless reports. I watched an official documentary where a lot of the police officers are talking.
Right.
They tell each other stories. The person whose story they're telling claims something completely different. And then in the next Zodiac's letter, he claims something completely different. So, what he claims and what other police officers claim is different is Don Falk claims he never made contact with the white guy. He claims he never stopped the white guy.
Mm-hmm.
The other police officers at the scene, when they were talking to Falk, say that Falk did indeed tell them that he had asked this potential suspect if he had seen anything. Falk says they just kept driving. The next letter that goes to the Chronicle from the Zodiac,
Yeah.
the Zodiac talks about how Don Falk stopped him and asked him if he saw
Right.
anything. Don Falk says that he saw this guy walking down the street and he seemed to be walking upstairs into a concrete drive platform that would then take you to the front door of a home.
Right.
I will tell you, he does still know the address. He repeated the address on the documentary. They blurbed it out, but he does still know the address of the home. It was never followed up. Okay? So, Officer Falk also, once again, what I just said, he saw the man going into the entrance of home. He left this out of his report. So this is the second time we have a police officer leave something completely out of their report. He didn't at all say that he saw this guy going up to the stairs, which once again is why it wasn't looked into further. He didn't admit that he had seen the guy going into a potential home until later.
Right.
Which once again, this could have just been a guy who wanted the police office trail and it wasn't his real house anyway. But that's still a pretty major part of the story. Don Falk does believe that this man was the Zodiac killer. Having said that, the other officers that were at the scene of the crime don't. They don't think it was the guy. So this is what I'm talking about, where no one knows what the fuck they're talking about. He says, Don Falk goes on to say that he assumes the man didn't live there basically just because of how he was dressed. This was an upper middle class type of community. He said this dude didn't look upper middle class. When he was asked why he left this shit out of the report, he said because he wanted the investigators to follow through.
Oh my God.
So this is the kind of police officer we have running around in the 1960s. It's not my job. Fuck it. We have a mass lunatic killing everyone. Fuck it.
It's not important. Leave it out.
Once again, in a letter sent by the Zodiac, he details the officer driving past, asking him if he saw anything. Once again, Falk claims this never happened.
That's funny. Absolutely trolling him.
So, do we have any comments, questions?
No.
Okay.
No, we're good.
I guess I'll just keep rolling. October 13th, 1969. A letter was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle. The Chronicle I talked about earlier, Robert Graysmith worked there.
Right.
The letter contained a blood-stained fabric along with, the letter. It's important to note, at this point in time in the investigation, there were 2,500 suspects. Just at this point. Yeah. On October 14th, another letter came, this time with the cab driver's bloody coattail.
Who was the first one?
Once again, that's an interesting part of the case that I don't know.
So we don't know who's the first one is, but we know the second one.
I believe, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably Cecilia's.
Right.
But I don't know. Nobody seems to have that fucking answer. If anyone else can find that answer for me, please do it. Because we have a lot of physical evidence coming to the police that there's no evidence, like no one has any idea who this shit belongs to at this point. But what we do know is that the coattail was of the cab drivers. This also included a threat to school children. Quote, just shoot out the front tire and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out.
Right.
Now, once again, I said I wasn't going to talk about suspects, but we have time to kill. So, in the documentary, This is Arthur Lee Allen, one of his acquaintances said that Arthur Lee Allen had made a very similar type of statement to him once. So Arthur Lee Allen was once a school teacher. He was fired for diddling, and he was a very bitter, angry type of guy. But everyone who knew him said he was fascinated by a child's world, which that's a really creepy statement. I don't really know what it means, but everybody on the documentary, friends and acquaintances, agree that the guy was fucked up in the head and that he would just say shit like this out of the blue. And they always thought it was just him being funny, like trying to incite a reaction. Like they tell stories about how he would smack bugs with a fucking machete.
Oh, that's gangster.
And the one dude talks about how they were all sitting at the kitchen table one time and Arthur pulled out a knife and just stuck it in the middle of the fucking table. Like they say that the guy was really, I couldn't watch that full documentary because those people were like talking at a snail's pace. But I watched enough of it to understand that this man was fucked.
Right.
There's another guy that didn't even know Arthur Lee Allen, but claims that Arthur Lee Allen and this, basically this guy was fucking around with some girls, with some guy's girlfriend. So one day the boyfriend came, knocked on his door, broke into his house, grabbed him by the balls, and then Arthur Lee Allen kicked down the door with a knife and threatened to cut the dude's dime packages off.
Oh.
Like,
That's nice.
It's a real messed up fucking guy. Regardless if he was a Zodiac killer, he should have been institutionalized, and I believe later in life he was arrested for something that was separate.
We got Patricia jumping in the chat here. She says, I remember being young and my dad and uncle, who was a sergeant in the Chicago PD, talking about a hooded asshole in California and how the cops must be dumb as fuck.
So, I have my own personal theory on why the hood.
Oh, yeah?
The Texarkana killer wore a hood.
Well, after watching that thing last night, I thought it probably came back to some stupid comic book thing, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't know anything about
a mass vigilante.
I don't know anything about the comic book thing. I've never heard the theory that the guy was like doing the good work as a vigilante. I've never heard any of that. And
you need to watch the show, dude. It's interesting.
See, I don't like shows like that.
We haven't even talked about the Cypher thing yet, and that's like the big thing that show dives into.
Listen here, Cypher. We're not diving deep into the Cypher. I'm not gonna lie to you, because me trying to explain that Cypher is going to be like really difficult. We'll get into it a little bit,
right?
But there were a lot of ciphers, and only one of them is believed to one or two of them are believed to be officially cracked. One of them was cracked by like a school teacher and his wife. They like to do crosswords and Sudokus, and one morning, when the Zodiac would send the ciphers, he would send a letter along with it that said, "I'll kill again if you don't print this in the newspaper." Mm-hmm. So they would print it in the newspaper, and this like math teacher and his wife sit down and they solve one of them. And they actually had a really cool thought process. They said, whoever this is, they're a narcissist. So the word I is going to be used a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they were able to look at whichever letter was used the most, and they said that has to be I. And then they were able to like figure out the whole fucking thing.
No shit.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, that one cipher, I'll put it up on the screen now.
But the cipher that was solved is the one about the most dangerous game. It was basically, he said something like, I kill people because it's fun. Man is the most dangerous game. Like, that's what he said. The Zodiac Killer also put in a letter that his name was in one of the ciphers. Once again, I said we weren't going to talk a lot about suspects, but the name Kane is supposedly in one of the unsolved ciphers. And once again, that would add validity to the fact that maybe Lawrence Kane did it. Lawrence Kane is also connected to the case because I believe he used to cause problems around the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And somebody was killed like right outside the library that he worked at, but they couldn't connect that to the Zodiac. It's a whole bunch of shit that I don't I didn't dive into, so I don't have enough knowledge to describe to you people. So I'm sorry for that. Like I said, I didn't think we'd go through everything as quick as we are. So several letters has been sent by the Zodiac in months and supposedly years to come. Many of them in a cryptic language. Not all of them have been fully decoded. Among these letters were key details of the case and evidence of the physical nature. So once again, more physical evidence, but also details of the crimes that weren't published that regular people couldn't have possibly known about. This is where the story really takes a turn, everybody. The Zodiac also called into the Jim Dunbar show. It wasn't a bit. Brian Hartnell, the past victim who said that he would always remember what the Zodiac's voice sounded like, says that this voice was not the attacker's voice. The caller did seem troubled. He said that his name was Sam, and he claimed to have had headaches. Okay? So, before the Jim Dunbar show, this man named Sam called Oakland police and said that he wanted Melvin Belly, who was a well-known attorney at the time, to appear on the Dunbar show. When Belly was on the show, the call came in. The caller said he wanted Belly's help. They later talked on and off air and set up a meeting. The killer never showed up. The killer would send another letter on December 20th, 1969. This is a year after the first initial killing. Once again stating that he wants Belly's help. The letter gave more details and had more evidence. Letters would continue to appear throughout the 70s. Police believe any further killings were copycats. The last official letter came in on January 29th, 1974. The Zodiac praised the new film The Exorcist as, quote, the best satirical comedy ever. At the bottom of the letter was a score. Me 37, SFPD 0. Anything after this is believed to be simply a copycat.
Right. We have Ray Peace dropping a $4.99 super chat over there in YouTube. Didn't leave a message with a little lemon guy waving, but thanks for that. I was laughing because you can't see it, Dylan, but this little SpongeBob pops up on the screen when somebody sends some money over, and it was pretty funny. I was hoping you didn't see me laughing at you.
No, I listen, I almost chuckled at the satirical comedy because, like, that's a fucked up statement, but it's by today's standards, it's kind of true. Like, people look at The Exorcist now like it's fucking hysterical, but at the time, people were like shitting their pants over this movie.
Right.
I might have even done that. I might have even said that in the past on one of my shows and people freaked out. But like, if you watch that movie in 2020, and there are some parts that are still really fucked up, but like, if you watch that movie in 2020, a lot of those lines are just fucking hysterical and they don't mean to be funny. They just are. But maybe that says something about me. Maybe I'm fucked up. I don't know.
So this guy has now said that well, at least what I'm understanding is that he's claimed that he's killed 37 people. That's what he's saying in this, 37-0. That's
what the assumption is of the score.
Right. And so you're saying that after this, when that was announced, that they don't claim any other deaths were caused by the Zodiac.
Yes.
That was the last one. See, that's another thing that's interesting about that show is they say that he goes on to New York and starts killing.
Yeah, see, that's all bullshit. Here's the other thing. In 1969, the Zodiac sent a letter that said, I will no longer announce when I'm killing people.
Right.
Letters persisted. Having said that, there were letters that had completely different insignia, whatever.
Insignia?
Yeah, thank you. I really did flub that one. Jesus fuck.
Insignia?
Oh my god, this is How long have we been doing? Oh boy, we only hit the hour. Well, boys, I planned for a 3-hour show, and goddamn, Landon, we did not do it.
This gives me a break.
Yeah, man.
Break tonight.
I
But
have to
there was
say,
a couple things I want to get into at the end of this when we're officially done that I was kind of pissed we were going to have to push off till the next episode. So
I have to tell you, this normally doesn't happen where I plan for a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
and
let me mention that Dillan was like, on the last episode, he's like, I got exactly this amount of time or whatever. And it was spot on. And then this time, he's like, yeah, man, I got 3 hours. Here we are, 2 hours early.
Well, here's the thing. I was expecting for there to be a lot more conversation, but I will say the flaw on my part, I didn't account for the fact that by not discussing suspects and by not discussing the ciphers, that like it would take me an hour to try to describe to you the ciphers.
Yeah, the ciphers were crazy. I'd recommend anybody that wants to dive in more into the ciphers and really understand those to watch that show. They'd use a supercomputer and shit like that.
I wanted for this show to be as easy on us as humanly possible, and so I kept in the majority of details, but there were certain things that I left out just for time because explaining them would have taken longer. Like, I had to really contemplate if I even wanted to put in there that Cecilia was awake and talking to the first responders, because nobody else seems to think that's important.
Yeah, see, that was a big thing in that show, too, is that they interviewed the guy who went up and and started meeting him, or was talking to him at the beginning.
Yeah, and I also didn't allot time for us to get into the Robert Graysmith thing, simply because, listen, the book Zodiac's a great book, but there's a lot of false information in that fucking book. A lot of false information, to the point that, like, Robert Graysmith tries at one point in the book to connect one of the first responders of one of the incidents to, like, being friends with one of the victims, but the officer says that's bullshit. I never met these people.
Right.
I have one last bit of page here, so I might as well just read it, and then we'll open a discussion. Sure. I am so sorry, everyone.
For what?
Because I feel like an asshole. I allotted for 3 hours.
Nobody knew but me until you said it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm an asshole, everyone. But last time I was spot on, and hopefully in the future I am too. There are some suspects connected to the case by circumstantial evidence, but no suspects were ever caught. Hundreds or thousands were interviewed, and thousands were suspected. The case stays cold. It stays unsolved, but it is still an open, ongoing investigation. So this is different than the Dahlia case that's been closed since 1940 or since 1950. Right. This case has been opened since 1969. They really don't want to close the case, and the police still, the San Francisco Police Department still gets hundreds of tips a year on who the Zodiac killer is. I don't have it written down, but I guess
potentially the guy could still be alive, right? He would be really freaking old, but he could still be alive.
Looking at the major suspects: Arthur Lee Allen, dead; Lawrence Kane, dead. The other guy in that show that you were talking about, I believe he's dead. There's another book that came out by a guy named Gary Stewart. I don't know what his dad's name was. Anywho, he claims his dad did it, dead. So all of the book came out in 2013. Right. All these people are dead. All of the main internet suspects are dead.
Patricia jumping in. What show are you talking about, Landon? Where can I see it? It's called The Hunt for the Zodiac, and it is on Amazon Prime. They have one season up there, and it was free to watch. I don't know if there was more seasons, but I literally found it last night, so I didn't have enough time to look for a season.
I'd also like to interject that it's on YouTube for freezies. History Channel put it up for freezies.
There you go. Good. So YouTube or Amazon Prime if you got that.
To my knowledge, there isn't a second season.
Okay. Well, it kind of sucked because it just ends, and it's like, wait, you were just about to spill the beans on this, and you just let it go. It's yeah, Patricia, you'll really enjoy it because it's pretty cool. But it really dives more around the ciphers. It really focuses in on that, and then just two suspects. But it's a cool show. It's a cool case, man. I personally, I think we're getting to the conclusion here, but I personally don't think that was the end, and I think that he keeps going. I think if you're that crazy of a person, you claim you've killed 37 people, you don't just stop.
Well, here's the thing.
But that's
There are attacks that happened. I might have lost Landon there. I don't know.
I'm here.
You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are attacks that happened before the December 20th attack that people believe are connected to the Zodiac. Once again, officially, the reports say nay. They are very similar to what the original Zodiac's MO was. Do I want to get into theory? Do I want to open that fucking can of worms?
Throw it.
If you guys want to hear my take on it, not that it matters, but like I said, I personally believe that the killings that happened before were probably the same guy that did the first killings. And I think the guy that did the last two killings is a completely separate person. I will say that I think the December 20th killing may have just been something completely different. And I think the killing of the attack on the first victim that lived, the Michael Magal fella, I think that his might have been completely different. And the reason that I say that is that he talks, like I said earlier, he asked her if she knew who it was, and she said someone who's jealous. From what we know of the Zodiac didn't kill people because he knew them.
Right.
It seems to me like that person might have just killed them because he was pissed off. It's also important noting that Darlene Farron, who was the woman with Michael, she was married. So I feel like, listen, it could have been another boyfriend of hers. It could have been the husband. The description that Michael gave was different than any other description. And the only things that we really have concrete are we know it's a white guy. We know he wears glasses.
It may be a little chunky.
Well, but not everybody said that he was chunky, though. Not all of the suspects said he was chunky, or not all of the witnesses said that he was chunky, rather. So we don't even have that to connect. And the only one of the suspects that was chunky was Arthur Lee Allen, who also didn't fit any other description other than the fact he was a tall, chunky guy. He was also like a bald man who wore glasses. He didn't have long flowing hair or a crew cut. And the incident with the hood, Cecilia said that the guy had long brown hair and she knew this not only because she saw him without the hood, but she said you could see his hair through the eye holes. Like I said, to me, it's probably a lot of different people.
Right.
And like I said earlier, there was a lot of killing happening in California's area at this point in time. I really don't know what to say. I really don't. It's one of those times where, like, the last time with the suspect towards the end of the episode, I was able to pretty much debunk it. But this time it's like, I don't even have anything as far as these people to debunk because we didn't really talk about suspects. But even if we did, all of the evidence that puts those people within the crimes is all circumstantial anyway, and it doesn't seem like the MO of the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no way that we're going to be able to come to a conclusion with what we have available to us. I mean, if even if the police had it, they would have already tried to charge somebody with it. So, it's an open case. Nobody really knows. I'm kind of with you in the idea that there's probably some of those murders who were not the Zodiac killer or had multiple people involved in them. I think that's probably pretty easy to get confused there with all these murders happening at once.
To me, one of the major points that tells me that at least at least the incident at the incident with Michael. His was at least different because or not Michael, was it Brian Hartnell? Sorry, Brian Hartnell. He says that he would know the person's voice if he heard it, and when he later heard the tape of the call into the Jim Dunbar show, he says that wasn't the voice of the guy. So maybe that one was completely separate. Maybe that guy was legitimate and he killed a guard and just wanted to get to Mexico. Who the fuck knows? But everybody who heard the guy's voice say he had a distinct monotone voice. They say he had a really creepy way of talking. And Brian Hartnell says he would know the guy's voice if he heard it, and he's never heard it again.
Well,
and I should also mention that you may have the question, what did the police do when the threats to school children happened? The San Francisco Police Department sent unmarked units to follow every school bus. They also prepped school bus drivers on what to do if anything were to happen. And basically what they were told to do is keep driving, make sure your kids get down, the police will handle it.
right. There was some documents of like him talking about planning a bomb to blow up the school bus at some point.
Yeah, that's in one of the letters that he sent. I don't believe it was to blow up a school bus. I think it was to blow up a school.
Oh, okay.
And he had actually put like a blueprint on how to build the bomb,
Yeah.
which engineers had looked at and
Said, yeah.
the guy knows how to build a fucking bomb.
Right. That's crazy. All right, that's all I got for that. I do want to mention before we move on that I didn't mention this in the beginning. I was trying to hit that freaking post, and I think I did it. I hope the stream didn't screw up before that because I need to save that. I hit the freaking post tonight. But we do have a Patreon now. I did set up a Patreon. I was really debating on setting up an OnlyFans just because I thought it would be more funny for us, but whatever. We got a Patreon. I got it up. I got a few tiers up. I'm going to add some more things in there. But if you are interested in joining our Patreon and helping out, and I really just want to get to the point where this thing pays for itself. And
can you maybe take us through the tiers and what each tier does as of now?
Yeah, let me pull it up here. As of now, we have a tier that is just for $1, and that is just if you just want to give us something. You're not going to get anything back out of that. And that actually may end up going away.
But the dollar, I mean, anything helps to help Landon pay for this shit, and that just shows your support for us. I believe with Patreon, you're also allowed to like leave a little message. So, if you guys just want to tell us, if you guys would like to leave recommendations for future episodes you'd want us to touch up on, keeping in mind it doesn't have to be serial killers. It can be anything that's oddity, and also, if you guys like the theme of killers, I do have some cool stuff coming, but this is going to be the last killer episode for a while. I have some other things in the future as far as my episodes go. I believe that the next 2 shows are Landon's.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I can always do shit, but I don't know how you wanted to do that. We'll talk about that off air. But at least one of the next couple episodes is going to be a Landon-driven episode, and
right.
I don't know if you want to say what we'll be looking into or not, if you want to leave that up.
We'll leave that as a mystery, because it could change. I don't want to get people's hopes up. But let me go through some of these tiers. So we do have the $1 one, which I like I said, I may end up just taking that off. The next one's at $5, and that is a giveaway sponsor. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a giveaway once a month, and anybody that is in that tier is going to have the opportunity to have her name thrown into a pot for the giveaway. As of right now, this is brand new, so nobody's there. So if somebody jumps on that $5 spot, you'll pick up the giveaway for December, which I'm going to give you a T-shirt. It'll just be a T-shirt for this month. I'm going to get a lot more cool stuff in the giveaway, but we've got to get this off the ground first. So next, there's a $20 a month section there for an on-screen sponsor, and that's where, if you guys look at the show here, you'll see this Exposing Reality Radio logo. What what I'll do is I'll end up, if you have your own logo, I can pop it in right there beside this one. You'll be on screen. We'll mention you before and after every show. So if you got a business or something like that you want to promote, you can do that. Or if you just want to put something silly on my screen and make me talk about it every episode. That's kind of like the thing with this is like, if this were me, I would do these things just to mess with me. Like I want to add another tier in here, some probably like the $10 tier where whoever's in that group of people get to decide on one of the topics we have to talk about at least once a month. One topic they choose. And so like if I was in that tier, I'd really screw with us too. So anyway, I'm going to be adding some more to it, but we got a couple up there right now, so if you guys are interested, we'd really appreciate it.
I'd also like to point out that while Landon's computer screen was on, he was lit up like Jack Nicholson's Joker. Just absolutely horrifying imagery coming from that side of the
super bright,
of the screen. But you know, I just want to say, like, thank you guys, everyone, for really supporting the first couple episodes. Even if you don't donate to the Patreon or the Super Chat over on YouTube or whatever, we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the messages. We appreciate that you guys are here along with us for this journey. And if maybe helping out with the Patreon or the Super Chat isn't something that you want to do, the easiest thing that you can do to support us, to show that you care, is to just share us to anyone who you think might want to watch. That's 100% free to you. Right. It's also free to leave a like. It's free to leave a comment.
A review. View on Apple Podcasts. If you want to leave a review, that would be great. 5-star review.
It's also...
Even though we're a 1-star podcast, just lie for a little bit. Give us 5 stars, and I'll give you a high five at some point whenever Rona's over.
And myself and Landon are also, we're open to any feedback that you guys have. If there's an issue that you seem to have with the show, let us know about it. If there's a way that you think we could make the show better, let us know about it. And, we're doing a lot of things that a lot of different shows don't do. Obviously, we have the call-in number, which we thank Rick Warren for using today. I'm sad no one else did. Right. I was really hoping for more discussion, but we got a lot of comments and questions and people who were in there, so I appreciate that. And also thank you guys for bearing with me while I gave you the details of the case.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I'm still looking for a drunk that we can have call in. We do have an update from Bob. Dillan said I can't do it on this episode to scare everybody away, so we'll have to do that next time. But it's an interesting one.
Well,
for those of you that have been following that case,
we're winded down now, and I think that the serious portion of the show's over. And while we're not making jokes, yet, I think that it would be okay to play the Bob Kessler.
Oh, but now he has a change of heart.
Well, I expected us to do a full 3 hours, and I expected it to be a lot more sad, and I expected morale to be down, and I expected people to be more pissed off about police negligence, but everybody's in good spirits. So even though you and I are I'm still nauseous doing this episode. We were really nervous going on. I don't know if you still are or aren't.
No, I'm good now, but yeah, definitely coming on, dude. I was like, why am I nervous? This is probably the most nervous I've been since back when I was doing like Out of the Shadows podcast, like my very first podcast.
We were really gearing up that this was going to be like the biggest show that we've done. And I unfortunately don't get to know if that's the case or not. Landon has all the details.
Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We really kind of got screwed when 20 something minutes in, we dropped the entire stream and then it started an entire new stream rather than just going back to the one it was on. So that really kind of screwed us. Once that happened, we lost a lot of viewers, but we were doing really well at the very beginning. So, but anyway, guys, if you're catching this back later, remember you can always go back and check out an audio podcast through Spreaker, Apple Podcasts. It's about to hit iTunes. I think that I'm still a couple days away iHeartRadio before it hits iHeartRadio. So, but Spotify, all that crap like that. So. Go listen there. Actually, if you listen through the audio version, we get a couple cents, so it actually helps us if you do that.
So right before we play the Bob Kessler call, for those of you on the Afterlife Network who aren't familiar with Bob Kessler. Bob Kessler is a fun kind of caller that myself and Landon, have gotten throughout our shows when we were just doing the Landon and Dillan show and having fun. And he's a character. He's a fun guy, and we love his calls.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that, when we started this show, we didn't really have any intentions or or you know what I mean? Like, we just wanted to jump on, talk shit.
Yeah, we didn't intend that we were going to be moving to the Afterlife Network and actually diving into serious subjects and actually doing like a show. We were doing the Landon and Dylan show and just talk about stupid shit like Taco Bell and OnlyFans and God knows whatever else was happening in our tiny minds. But we appreciate the support, particularly over on the Afterlife Network, and to all of our audio listeners. And with that, I think it's time to play the call. Landon, do you have it up?
It's still loading up right now, but we
Oh,
do have
boy.
a $2.99 super chat here from Ray Ray Peace. My Wi-Fi messed up, but I enjoyed what I got to hear. So awesome! Thanks, Ray Ray, for jumping in and your couple super chats. It really helps. Much appreciated. Jump over there on Patreon. Do the $5 tier. Nobody's there, so you'll get all the freaking prizes. Get a T-shirt this month and all that cool stuff. So, but yeah, I'm still loading up this call, so we can move on for a second. Once it loads, then we can go. This is the only thing I don't understand with Skype. If somebody leaves you a message, I have to sit here and let this stupid thing load until I can play it. I don't get that.
Well, I know that you said that you had some things that you wanted to touch on, and hoping that we didn't go the full 3 hours. So, do you have any subjects for?
Yeah, I wanted to dive in for a second. I'm gonna go ghost here again. Super bright. Sorry. I wanted to go back into our monolith. This is expanding more, Dylan. I know that you're not a fan of the monolith thing. There were some theories that maybe Tesla had something to do with it because it looked like a Tesla thing, which I kind of get that, but no, it's not a Tesla thing. It appears now. I think we're up to 3 or 4 different monoliths have appeared, but there is a group of people, a group of artists. Let me see if I can find their name. A lot of people thought that originally this was something from aliens or a marketing ploy or whatever, but apparently it's a small community of stunt artists who now have claimed responsibility. And they're offering more of these monoliths up at a price of $45,000 a piece.
You mean to tell me that these people want to sell this shit?
Yeah, they are selling it. Here, I'm gonna put this on the screen for everybody to see.
Landon, I would be happier if it was aliens at this point. Jesus, God. Welcome to capitalism, everybody. We'll sell you a piece of metal that does nothing.
Yeah, it just kind of sits there. So there it is. People are seeing this on the screen here. And there's pictures of, here's the guy right now. He's grinding the freaking monolith. They're making one and like sanding it down or whatever. I don't even know what the hell this is called, but yeah, 45 grand, dude. Like, come on. Doesn't that sound like a little bit expensive for just a piece of metal?
Listen, if you want a piece of metal, go dig a hole in your backyard. You'll stumble across one at some point. Maybe you'll find a body. Maybe you'll find a treasure chest. Well, that's what I want. I want to find a treasure chest.
Right, like that guy who did that in like New Mexico or whatever.
Well, there was a dude who did he had a bunch of like riddles to solve.
Right, that was the New Mexico guy.
Oh, was it from New Mexico? Okay. That one recently got found, actually, but it was by a person who had no idea about the poems or anything. They just stumbled across the
just freaking stumbled right on top of it. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was a couple $1 million worth.
Yeah, it was a couple $1 million worth of shit. And the guy who started the treasure is still alive. He was really happy that someone found it, but I think that he was sad that it wasn't through the puzzles. But he did say that he figured that people would be able to figure it out like really quick. Like he thought people would find it immediately. And he said he never expected to last like 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like 20, 25 years that thing went. Christopher back. He says he went shopping. Yeah. So I'm trying to load this thing up, but it's still loading, dude. This is the problem. Dylan told me I couldn't play it, so I couldn't have it prepared prior to coming on, and it's pissing me off at this point.
How was I supposed to know we were going to get through the Zodiac case, something so synonymous, something so deep rooted in an hour's time?
Look at
How was
that!
I
Oh,
supposed to know that?
the message popped up on this screen here. Ray joined our Patreon at the $5 tier. So thank you so much.
What is
And,
that? Already $15 from Ray Ray?
Yeah.
Ray, we appreciate it so much.
That's awesome. And I didn't even realize that it was going to pop up on the screen that you joined Patreon. So awesome. Great. Thank you so much. And again, if nobody else joins by the end of December, then you automatically win the free t-shirt for December. And then, we're going to have some more stuff coming up. I've got some other things. Dylan, I've been kind of overworked here trying to get the network started. There's so much that I still have to do in the background there. Running this show, work, holidays, all that crap. So I'm getting caught up, but I'm still behind. I need some help. That's what I need.
I think that everybody's in the same boat as far as, the holidays and it being hectic. And that's why, listen, we're not at all pushing people to donate or anything like that. It would be nice, but we're not pushing that because we understand, listen, not everybody, during COVID especially, not everybody has the extra, $5 or whatever to send to two assholes. And, but we appreciate everything and we appreciate the views. And like I said, sharing and leaving reviews and comments is free. So if you want to support us, sharing us is probably the best way to do so.
I don't have anything else, Dylan. This thing's still loading, so I'm done. I am so done.
Well,
I don't know what else to tell you guys. Nobody else got anything. I'll give it another 60 seconds here for somebody to call in if they want to talk about something else and let this here load. But Dylan, this has been fun, dude.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad it didn't go 3 hours.
Yeah, we would have been exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot. This is a lot to digest, and when you're throwing that, it's almost like we need to break this down one murder at a time.
And that's,
I don't know.
I had potentially thought about that, but then I said, if we do it that way, then we become a true crime murder mystery show, and I know that isn't really the vision.
Right.
And I know that we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the Black Dahlia one. I know that we've gotten so far we've gotten positive feedback on the Zodiac, but I didn't want to make this like a series. I didn't want everybody to think that we're only doing murders or that we're only doing these unsolved types of crimes. We're going to be doing other stuff. I think myself and Landon are both very different people.
Yeah.
And so the shows that you'll get from both of us are very different types of shows. Landon's type of show is going to be different than mine. I'll tell you, like I said, I know I've said in the past, I want to dive into Kennedy at some point. I know that I've had requests for the Son of Sam.
Yep.
Which is another murderer. So I'm kind of relaxing on that. I know DB Cooper is one that I've had request, which is interesting because it's not a murder, but it is interesting. So I have a lot of different things to kind of juggle as far as what do I want to get on the grind and research. But all of that really depends on you guys as well, because myself and Landon don't want to do things that you guys aren't interested in,
Right. But then again, I don't care if I'm interested. Screw you guys.
Yeah.
I want to do things that you guys suggest. So if you got something, that's really where I want to try and do it justice. If something you got out there that you want us to dive into, I'm gonna do weird shit. I'm gonna do stuff that nobody else is doing because I don't want to do these generic shows that.
Are you calling my shows generic?
Everywhere. I mean, the Zodiac Killer's been done 1,000,000 times. I'm not saying it's generic, but it's done 1,000,000 times. So I want to do things that haven't been done.
I think that a lot of the appeal of doing these things, and like I said, it gives me because none of these people who are watching or none of these people who have other shows, particularly on the Afterlife, know who I am. They don't know me as a researcher. They don't know me as a personality. And so by doing these kind of basic generic things, it helps these people to understand what I am, you know, because none of these people know who I am. They kind of have an idea of who you are, I think, you know. And we also understand that, like, for particularly over on the Afterlife Network, you folks are probably here because you want to listen to paranormal shows. You want to listen to ghosts and aliens and big feet and Mothmans, and myself and Landon will dive into cryptids. I can't promise you we're going to dive too much into aliens or ghosts.
I won't do the popular cryptids. Like, I want to
Yeah.
do the creepy, weird ones that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, we're not going to do, you know, El
Like the melon
Chupacabra.
heads.
Yeah. You know, we think that we might do Hellier. We might re-adventure Hellier.
Yeah, I
which-
definitely want to get into Hellier again because I feel like I shot
at that
myself in the
point-
foot there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my old show on Hellier, I think was fantastic. Actually, I think it was one of the more phenomenal shows that I was able to cover. I think that you and I have both done one or two shows on Hellier in the past, so this is really just old hat for us.
Right.
But we want to do things that are different. We want to do things that are fun. We want to do things that are unique. But we also understand that a lot of you guys are going to be kind of hesitant to click on because you're more fascinated with the ghosts and goblins and whatnot. And we're just hoping that we can show you guys that we can make these topics fun and entertaining for everyone, not just people like myself and Landon.
Right. Let me see. I got this. Oh, I was thinking it was going to play. Oh, it is playing. We got a Bob call. I think this is it. Are you ready for this? And then we're closing out after this.
I'm ready.
Hey, fellas. This is Bob Kessler. I just wanted to call and say I broke out of prison. I haven't been on the phone lately to call in because I've been in jail. But I stole a police car, and I'm hitting the road. I found me a boy that I love. His name's Philip. Say hey, Philip. Hey, man. I got me a police car. I got me. By Philip, we're in love. We're going to run away together. Hopefully we'll make it, or we're going to Thelma and Louise this shit.
And then that's when it went out.
No, we didn't get the full Bob Kessler. That was definitely one of the top Bob Kessler calls.
Dude,
I
there's a siren and everything.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. The only Bob Kessler call that I think tops that is when he called in live.
Yeah, you can't beat the live. That
The
was
live
great.
was, but
Unexpected, but great.
ladies and gentlemen, that was Bob Kessler. That's one of our famous bits. We thank you all so much for listening, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Like, share. We appreciate it. Go leave the reviews on the audio formats, and have a great day.
All that good shit. And don't forget, join the Patreon. We love you guys so much. Ray, thank you for your participation and helping us out there. And to everybody that commented, we love you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time on the Landon and Dillan Show.
And Rick Warren for your call.
Oh, yeah, Rick Warren. Oh, don't forget, coming up here, 9 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Afterlife Network, Paranormal Analytical, Eddie Hill, Rick Warren, 9 o'clock here on the Afterlife Network. You guys can stick around and listen to them. I think what was it they said they were talking about?
Oh, boy.
You remember?
I don't remember. I can pull it up really quick, probably.
Yeah, I got a second.
They're going to be discussing remote viewing, and I know for a fact Rick has a really good story, so tune in, guys. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, there you go. And, of course, Jerry joins in the last second. Yeah, Jerry, we're ending this. All right, guys. Thank y'all. We're out of here. Woo-hoo! It was a great episode, Dylan. Thank you, brother. Good job.